The two men accused of killing a 17-year-old boy hauled before the court today. We have the details straight ahead.
Also tonight, the Free National Movement names its newest senator.
And the National Golf Championships tee off. The Bahamas tonight. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
The Prime Minister calls on the region to incorporate new initiatives and components to its tourism product. Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight. I'm Andrew Knowles.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Keish Latterly. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Perry Christie said the region has to incorporate these new initiatives if it wants to improve the #1 product offering. Prime Minister Perry Christie was addressing the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Travel and Leisure Luncheon in New York City at the Caribbean Weekend. The Bahamas tourism product is taking center stage there as discussions between regional partners take place and as joint stakeholders strategize new ways to attract more business to the region. Our Clint Watson has the story.
The Bahamas and our #1 industry featured prominently in New York this week as a premier event on the calendar of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, Caribbean Week, unfolds. The week-long conference, exhibit, and strategic planning meetings have brought together regional leaders, executives, and other stakeholders in tourism, inclusive of the private and public sector partners. Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie telling movers and shakers in the region that in order to penetrate existing markets and attract far-flung ones, there is a need for greater private-public partnership. He cited the Bahamas as an example for the region with our joint partnership between the Ministry of Tourism and various promotional boards.
While this model has served us well over time, with present realities and the ever-changing dynamics of the tourism industry, it needs to be overhauled to embrace greater opportunities and yield better results both for business and for the public good.
Mr. Christie announced that the Bahamas has engaged a study by an independent firm in consultation with public and private sector stakeholders to help the industry capitalize on best practices and new methods.
To recommend the pooling of financial and human resources in a much more effective and efficient and collaborative process under an amalgamated entity which would take over these functions. This new entity would be governed by a board of directors nominated by the government and the private sector.
In terms of moving forward in the region, the Prime Minister noted that greater innovation and change in the way business is conducted must be the order of the day.
The task at hand to grow Caribbean tourism at a faster rate, to expand our economies to meet the rising expectations of growing populations in a highly competitive and challenging global environment, calls for innovation and change in a way that we do business and in the quality, variety, and delivery of our product offerings. Instead of relying only on our natural features of sun, sea, and sand as the compelling reasons to visit our shores, we need to add business in its various forms and culture to the mix to inspire travel.
The conference wraps up this weekend. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
The two men accused of killing a 17-year-old boy made their first appearance in the magistrate's court today.
Fern Carey was there for the arraignment.
Holding 36-year-old Blue Hill Road resident Dwayne Lockhart wearing the black T-shirt and 35-year-old Kervin Neely responsible for the brutal stabbing death of 17-year-old Enrico Major near the S.C. McPherson Junior High School Sunday night. The tragedy reportedly unfolded while the victim's 18-year-old friend was running an errand for a relative. Police say the friend was allegedly approached and attacked by a man he knew. Sometime later, the 18-year-old returned to the scene with the victim, Enrico Major. Police say that's when Lockhart allegedly attacked both teens with a cutlass. 17-year-old Major died at the scene. In court, Lockhart was formally charged with Major's murder. However, Neely, who appeared emotional in court, is facing an abetment to murder charge for purposefully aiding and abetting in Major's murder. Both defendants were not required to enter a plea. The case will be fast-tracked to Supreme Court by a voluntary bill of indictment. Following the arraignment, Lockhart, whose lawyer did not appear in court, told the court he wanted to apply for bail. However, Magistrate Andrew Forbes informed him that it was something his lawyer had to deal with. Neely then complained that he did not know anything about the crime he was just charged for. Now, as is usually the case in these matters, bail was denied and the defendants remanded to prison. They returned to court on June 24th. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Investigators are looking into a fire on an airborne Bahamas Air flight today. More than 40 passengers were on board that 6:20 a.m. flight from Nassau to Governor's Harbor when it was discovered that fire had broken out. Managing Director of the National Flag Carrier, Henry Wood, gave this account.
The system alerted him to a fire warning, and he used the onboard extinguishers to extinguish the fire. On landing, we discovered that it was a minor fire from one of the engines, and our investigation confirmed that it was equipment failure, not human error. We are addressing that matter with the manufacturer as we speak because the difficulty is related to the equipment.
Well, still to come, a new senator will join the upper chamber. Find out his plans. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
Shell Quality Fuels.